Micolucci, local news reporter for News for Jackson, Jacksonville, Florida. Actually, a graduate of University of Florida as well. Class of what was it?
2010.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Little known facts. You're actually in news production, but you actually started out in journalism. What brought you to the televised side?
So I started at UF as a psychology and journalism major, and I was volunteering at some magazines and stuff around there. And then I went to the dean of telecommunications and was like, I want to see more opportunities. I want to see what's going on. I saw that print journalism wasn't necessarily my forte. I liked it. I respect it. But I wanted to do more multimedia stuff. So I started volunteering a couple hours a week at WUFT-FM, which is the NPR affiliate. And, man, that's really where I learned journalism. That was a quick crash course. And the managers there and the students ahead of me just did a great job at just getting me acclimated. And within a couple of months, I was doing live reporting on the air. Actually, within a couple of weeks, I got to go and chase down the governor and ask him some questions about the potential for education cuts. It was Governor Charlie Crist at the time. Somebody else had a malfunction, so they weren't able to record the interview with him. They showed me this digital recorder. They said, here's how you do it. Go find the governor and ask him some questions. So basically what I did was I drove around. I found the governor's motorcade, caught up with him as he had a quick meeting, and they said, sorry, there's no press availability. He's not doing any more media interviews. And I just didn't want to take no for an answer. So persistence was key, and I just said, Mr. Crist, Mr. Governor, can I ask you some questions as you walk to your SUV? And he said, sure. And I got that interview and brought it back to the station, and we got it on all the newscasts, and it was super cool. So I was able to work my way up the ranks there doing radio, ended up becoming the morning edition producer and host. So I was the college kid that was supposed to get to work at 4 a.m., and I would go on air from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and that's certainly different than most people that are at UF.
Yeah, definitely.
But I loved it. I learned so much. And then I started moving into TV, volunteering at WUFT TV News 5, and started as a photographer shooting some sporting events when they needed a new photographer. And then I started just taking a camera on my own, checking it out, shooting my own stories, submitting it to the news director as well as the producers and saying, here, I shot this story. Here's a sports feature. And eventually they started airing them. And then I became a reporter and then auditioned to be the sports anchor. I was a sports anchor at noon and then eventually worked my way up to being sports director for the station.
Sweet. Yeah, competition must have been fierce. Not only getting that position, but where you're at now at News for Jacks. What was it like to have to fight to get to where you are? Was it kind of knock you down at some points, build you up, or?
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a learning curve, and it's definitely quite the experience getting into it and going from college into, a real world commercial station, let alone being top 50 market like we are here in Jacksonville, was a little bit difficult. And there were a lot of people that really didn't want to accept me because of my age, because I was 22, and especially at that time, we didn't really have one-man bands. I was the first MMJ at the station to be full-time doing that, and a lot of the reporters that had been here said that they'd pay their dues in a couple markets before me, so it was a little bit of a learning curve, and getting producers and photographers and editors wanting to work with me. But you know what, you just go in with a good attitude, you work hard every day, and it works out. You got to have a passion for it. You got to be able to know that it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not just Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock. It doesn't stop. You have to constantly cultivate your sources. When breaking news comes in, whether it's at midnight or 5 a.m., you got to hop on it, because if you don't, somebody else will.
Gotcha. So top of that, sounds like you had a started pretty low on totem pole. How'd you get your start? What was your first job at the station? Did you start out as a reporter? Or?
So my first job at the station was 3 days a week MMJ. So I would one-man band with my own camera. And we didn't even have one-man banding cameras back then, so I had to wait for a photographer to be done from the morning shift, charge up the batteries real quick, take this giant camera, and I'd actually bring a light stand, and I'd set it up to my height. frame it, focus it, and then knock it over and go stand in front of it for my on-camera appearances. It was certainly interesting and worked alone for a long time. And then on the weekends, I was the weekend assignment desk guy. So I would take the calls, I'd take the feeds, I'd set up stories for the reporters, I'd get pacers and VOSOTs and this and that. But I'd always have a camera in my car, and I'd have a police scanner back when we used to have them in this market. And I was always willing to do it. And I was hoping that the weekend reporters would call in sick, because when they'd call in sick, not only did I get to be on air, I'd be on air at 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock at night. I would also get to work with a photographer, and I'd also get to be live. So for me, it was kind of a treat to be able to do that, and I'd work double shifts if somebody called in sick, if there were some unforeseen circumstances, or if there was breaking news and they needed an additional reporter. So I did that, and then I became on air 4 days a week, and I was assignment desk 1 day a week, and then ended up becoming full-time reporter 5 days a week. Did it dayside, did it nightside, did it morning show, hopped around all these different shifts. And then 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to audition and apply for the 9 a.m. anchor role here, and got that 2 years ago. So I anchor every day, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., and then I go out and report for the shows, sometimes at noon, 4, 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it's really, you hit the ground running, and it's nonstop. It's been incredible. And the good thing about my position now is I kind of get to experience both worlds. So I get to do the anchor role in the morning and do that, and then get to report in the afternoons, and they're very different. You know, there's some things that are similar, but they're very different.
Yeah, so build on that. What's the average workday entails? If the morning's very different than the afternoon, is it pretty average as far as the work, or?
There's no such thing as an average workday. Yeah. Even right now, I mean, I have my assignments for the day. I just got off the desk anchoring, but it can all change like that.
Really?
So, I go into work. I usually talk to my producers the night before. I've got a producer, executive producer, associate producer, and a talent coordinator that deal with the 9 a.m. show. So we talk with them. We plan our guests, because we do a lot of live interviews, a lot of live segments, sometimes cooking, demonstrative stuff. And go into work, go over the rundown, so read through all the scripts. Sometimes we work together to kind of make them a little bit better, or just more my style, because every anchor has their own style. You get ready, you do an hour straight with your co-anchor, and then I get off, and then I go straight into a morning meeting where we have management, we have producers, we have reporters, and other people come to the table, and I bring 3 to 4 pitches a day and say, here's a story idea, here's something that we could do, here's my contacts. And we all kind of come to the table, and sometimes you talk with other on-air people, the producers, and you decide which stories are best for the day, for the time being, and which approach you want to take to it. So somebody might say, well, I'd really like to see what the mayor has to say about this. I'd really like to see what so-and-so has to say about this. And then you go out, you grab a photographer, you gear up, you head out to wherever it is, you set up interviews, sometimes in the car as you're going that way. You try to get the interviews. Usually around 2, 3 o'clock, I try to wrap up my shooting. I go through, I transcribe everything that we've done for the interviews, pull all the facts, and then write 1, 2, possibly 3 stories, depending on how many shows you're in. And then you record it. The photographer usually edits it. Sometimes we edit it from the field, and then you send it in, and you get ready for the live shot, because almost every story has a live shot on the beginning and the end. So we do a live intro, we pitch to our pre-recorded package, and then we do a live tag, and sometimes we do a Q&A with the anchors to kind of go back and forth if it's a big story.
Gotcha, sounds pretty easy.
The days usually go by pretty quickly, because you're just so busy. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
At least you're always busy, so you're never bored.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's no such thing as an average day. You don't know. Today I've got my story assignments. All that could change if a big story that I'm following happens. If there's breaking news, it's all up in the air.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, so I know a lot of mainstream media likes to be first on the scene for any big breaking news, like any celebrity deaths, any terrorist attacks or anything. Would you say it's just as important for a local station to get to their breaking news quickly, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to get on the scene with breaking news, and we've talked about this at the station. I mean, it's good to have a support group too back at the station. So, you got to send boots on the ground because you're just not going to always get things that you get when you're calling. So yeah, we do, and that's why our vehicles are usually packed up. And you can be working on a story, and there's big breaking news, and it's just you grab your photographer, you grab your jacket, you run out the door. But then it's also good to be able to have a support group back at the station, like our assignment manager, maybe some other reporters or producers that are making calls for you. So it's like, I'll call the fire department and call the sheriff's office. You call the business owners in the area. You call homeowners in the area. You try to get this surveillance camera footage, whatever it is. So it's really all about that teamwork. And then when we get to a story, if it's breaking news, you hit the ground running. I mean, we put that car in park, you hop out there, my photographer's rolling. I'm in a different angle, usually shooting video. Now it's all about social media, tweeting pictures, putting it on Facebook, Facebook Live, even Instagram and Snapchat if it's a big enough story. And, it's really just... It's an adrenaline rush, and you can't make too many mistakes because if you do, as you said, you can get beat by somebody else, and it can be quite competitive. Even though I'm friends with a lot of the people at the competing stations, it's like a football game. When it's game time, you're all in there, and everybody's trying to get the best stuff, the best shots, the best interviews, and the newest information.
I guess you actually answered another question I had. I know sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that's kind of news delivered instantly to your hands. Sounds like I was going to ask if y'all that hinders y'all in here or use it to your advantage. Sounds like y'all actually use it.
Social media is huge, and it has changed so much since when I began here in Jacksonville about 8 years ago. I mean, if we get a name, the first thing we do is search for them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I mean, you can find so much about people. You can find pictures. And then also when we post information, you'll get comments. So we'll post information about, a crime spree, and somebody might comment on that saying, oh, yeah, my husband was working right across the street at the time. He saw the getaway vehicle. And that's when I'm like, oh, well, hook me up with your husband. Let me talk to him, and he can give me some more details. It is a huge role in day-to-day news. It's a huge role in investigative news. And it can be good, but you also have to be very careful because social media can spawn some horrible rumors. There's a lot of misinformation, even pictures. I mean, I remember somebody, when I was covering Hurricane Matthew, somebody sending me pictures of sharks on flooded streets. And that's circulated, and everybody's like, there's sharks down there in Jack's Beach on 1st Street, on 3rd Street. Wasn't the case at all. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. You can't go off information just from some random person's social media, but you can use it as a starting point. Okay. And you can use that to find out more details and track it down because ultimately it's up to us to fact check and to make sure that it is valid, that it is accurate, and that it is real.
Other than the social media things, have there been any major shifts like in your job due to your profession since you've started, or has it affected it at all, or just something y'all work with? Or
I mean, we are really web focused. Mm-hmm. When we have new information, if it's a developing story, unless we're trying to keep it secret, like yesterday I had an exclusive, so we had to kind of keep it off the web because if we tipped off the competition, then they would go and get the same information. So we kept it off the web until I debuted it on TV. But for the most part, I mean, we're constantly in contact with our web editors and our web producers, trying to feed them pictures, video, information for these developing stories, because we know that fewer people are watching TV, especially throughout the day, but that doesn't mean that fewer people are consuming the news and the product that we put out. So, we have an app that we have, I think, a couple 100,000 people have downloaded it, so we can send a push alert right away before we can get anything on TV. I mean, if there's breaking news that comes in, our web team can often send a push alert to your phone within 2, 3, 4 minutes. And, it's basically, we have this information, we're working to confirm this, check back with us for the latest. that's huge. I mean, we have other digital ventures. We're working on like streaming. So we have a Roku channel. I think we have an Apple TV channel, all these different ways, because we recognize that not everybody is just sitting on their couch waiting until 6 p.m., turning on the TV, watching the news until 6:30 p.m., and then doing the rest of their day. We live in a world where everybody wants their news immediately. If there's police cars on the bridge, we get phone calls, we get emails, we get social media messages right away. We need to know what happened. You know, my relative was on that bridge. He saw this. We need to know. And you got to be careful to put that information out.
Yeah.
You don't want to put it out too soon incorrectly.
Let's see what else we got. Best parts of your job. What would you say makes it want to come to work every day?
So the best parts of my job are when I can make a difference. If there's a story that we can do, maybe if a family lost their home in a fire, it's tragic. There's nothing I can do that the fire happened, but we can spread awareness. If you tell a good story, somebody might come forward and donate new furniture, donate money, give them a place to stay in the meantime. That's big. That's happened. We've been able to put stories on the air and have dangerous people arrested, by raising awareness. Reporting can be cathartic for people in difficult situations, meaning, for some people, it can be part of the healing process that something terrible happened to them or a loved one, and they want to speak out to warn other people. So that's great. And over the years, we have been able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for charities, for nonprofits, and just helping so many people. The other thing is, and this doesn't happen every day, but every once in a while I get to do some really, really cool stuff. Number one example, flying with the Blue Angels. Once in a lifetime, you can have all the money in the world and not fly with the Blue Angels. But, I had applied several years, and they want to know about your social media. They want to know about your reporting, this and that. Finally, about a year and a half ago, I finally got the go, and the Navy selected me to be the one media rider for the Blue Angels that year. And it hurt. It was wild. I was really nervous. But doing something like that, I have that memory for the rest of my life. And, I broke the speed of sound. We did 7.3 Gs. We did all kinds of flips and turns and everything like that. And every time I go to an air show and I see the Blue Angels, I'm like, I really cannot believe that I was in that, that I did that. So that's really incredible. But the point is we tell a good story because not everybody is going to have the opportunity to fly in a jet. So we pass it on to our viewers so that they can appreciate what's going on with the military, with our armed forces. I've gotten to go on missions with, federal agents, with police officers, with firefighters, with the Coast Guard, offshore. I've been on a Great White expedition, been on the field for a Super Bowl. So certainly for a guy that's in his 20s, I've had a lot of really, really cool life experiences. And we have a front row seat as journalists to history. I've covered 3 presidential elections. I have covered so many major events that have made national and international news, and it's totally different to actually be there. I've actually been able to experience it firsthand, and it's my job to make the viewers feel like they experience it.
Yeah.
So I try to do a good job doing that because not everybody can be there, but it absolutely, is an honor and a privilege to be able to do something like that and to be, selected to be on the front lines.
Yeah, no, that's definitely really cool because there's very few, like you're saying, very few people who can do any of that in their lifetime. So the fact you're doing your 20s,
yeah,
crazy.
I basically sometimes see cool stuff. Like I saw the Navy helicopters flying over my whole life here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And was always wondering what was going on. And I was told, well, those missions are top secret, this and that. They don't take riders. Kept pushing on. I had a good in with the Navy that worked really hard to advocate for me. About 3-4 months later, I finally got the clearance. Got to fly on one of their missions. Super cool. So it's just things like that. And I think the story really did well. It resonated with our viewers because if you're in this area, you see those choppers overhead all the time, and very few people know what they're actually doing. So we were able to give them an actual glimpse from the air, behind the scenes, behind closed doors. And that's just fun to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. What's a little known fact or secret or misconception about news anchoring and reporting that people may think you want to knock out right now?
I think that if you're getting in it just to be glamorous and just to be, a local celebrity, you're in it for the wrong reason. You're going to have to come in early. You're going to have to stay late. You're going to have to cancel plans. It can get in the way with your social life, with your dating life, with your family life. So that's why you really, really have to be passionate. You're going to have thick skin, too, because there's people that love me and there's people that hate me. And there's people in between. And you got to deal with all of it. You got to take the good with the bad, and sometimes you'll have people that just are so excited about what you're doing, and there's people that just, you can't change their mind, and they're absolutely, totally against you or the media. And it is a difficult time to be, working in news right now, because we do have, even the president criticizes journalists. And, it's difficult when there's people that are knocking our credibility. But I know where my heart is. I know where my coworkers' hearts are. And I know that we're not pushing some agenda. We're not trying to brainwash people or this or that. We're trying to give them the facts and let them know to, make our viewers better prepared and better informed on what's going on out there.
Thank you.
You actually knocked out about 3 more of my questions. I guess, out of all the good and the bad, most embarrassing moment on or off camera? That's a group question. They want to know.
Stuff happens. You have cameras go down. You have unflattering angles. You have people that come up and yell at you, scream at you, try to attack you. I don't think I've had anything like YouTube worthy just yet, which is actually pretty incredible, because I've been on the air for almost 8 years. But we've had people come by, and I've had people try to steal my microphones. I've had people curse me out. I've had people kind of physically push me or attack me. You have times when you're on the air and you're sick as a dog and you're coughing and you're sneezing and you just don't look good. You have times when you get tongue-tied, or you want to say one thing, because out in the field when we do live shots, we don't have teleprompters. So, you have times when you want to say one thing and something else comes out. It happens. As you get more experienced, it happens less. But, even to the most veteran reporters and anchors, stuff happens. It's live TV. It's all about just rolling with it and getting better every day. And if you do make a mistake, or if you're not having your best day, just like a football player, you go back out there, you suit up again, and you do it again, and you make sure that it's better.
Gotcha. Yeah, you definitely can't be too bad of a job. I saw you were voted previously the top investigative reporter in Jacksonville, so must be doing something right.
It's not for that, but just work hard, and a big thing with reporting is networking. It's very important. Like, I do a lot of charity events. I do a lot of nonprofits. I MC all the time. I'm supposed to MC an event tonight. I fly out tomorrow. I would prefer to go home and relax and this and that. But I'm hustling. I MC events probably once a week, if not more. So it's all about the people. It's all about the connections. You obviously want to do your best job on TV, but people are going to stick with you and connect with you more if you have a relationship and you make a good impression with them outside of TV. And that's something that you got to learn. Especially after you've been on the air for a while, you can't just turn it off. Whether I'm in a hat and, kind of scruffy and in a T-shirt, if you're at the grocery store, you still have this image that you have to convey, and you have to realize that. If you're out to dinner, if you're out with your friends, you always have to have some sort of a decorum, because it just takes one mistake, one bad impression to really ruin it with people. So, my biggest advice is get involved with charities, get involved with civic organizations, meet all these people before you have to do the big story, know all your government officials, know the key players in whichever market you're working in, and, just be a down-to-earth, genuine person, and I think viewers would understand that, and they relate to that more than somebody that might be totally buttoned up and looks perfect on TV. It's more important, in my opinion, just to be human, and people really like that.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it for today. I definitely appreciate it. I'm sure the class is gonna love to see this. So thank you again, Vic.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me the link and